Welcome to the ESI Africa podcast, brought to you by your trusted power and energy multimedia journal. You can download this and all other episodes on esi-africa.com/podcasts. Let's get into today's conversation.
Welcome to this ESI Africa podcast, where we delve into the latest developments and trends in the energy sector across the African continent. I'm Nicolette, Pombo-van, Editor-in-Chief of ESI Africa, and today I'm honored to have Professor Vally Padayachee with us. He is the AMEU Strategic Advisor and a prominent thought leader and a consummate professor in the power and energy fields. Most recently, the AMEU Convention 2025 took place in East London from 5 to 8 October 2025, where electricity utility and industry experts gathered to discuss critical topics related to the future of electricity energy in South Africa, including the integration of renewable energy, the role of artificial intelligence in electricity utilities, and strategies for achieving a balanced, just energy transition. In this podcast episode, we will explore the proceedings, deliberations, and innovations that emerged from the convention, as well as their implications for electricity utilities and communities alike. So let's dive into the conversation with Professor Padayachee and gain insights into the key themes, takeaways from this important annual event. So, Professor Padayachee, what were some of the key themes and discussions that stood out during the AMEU convention?
Good afternoon, Nicolette, and thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. Yes, the convention was hugely successful. I understand we had almost a record attendance, and the convention per se revealed the critical role of AI, artificial intelligence, and smart technologies as transformative agents in our energy landscape. Key discussions centered around how AI not only enhances operational efficiency, but also fosters a deep engagement with our customers. Additionally, the emphasis on grid stability amidst increasing reliance on renewables highlights the need for innovative solutions, paving the way for smarter energy management that aligns with our sustainability goals. And finally, the need for and importance of reasonably high quality input data when processed by AI algorithms to ensure more accurate outcomes was also significantly emphasized by a number of speakers at the convention.
Yeah. Professor Padayachee, you have written quite extensively on a lot of topics, and this has been published on ESI Africa. And one of them was Valley's sweet spot ratio. So, how does this concept contribute to discussions on grid stability and renewable energy integration?
I'm glad you asked that question because that sweet spot ratio is very close to my heart, and hence I coined the term Valley's sweet spot ratio. Essentially, Nicolette, the Valley's sweet spot ratio is a critical metric that helps us understand the optimal mix of intermittent renewable sources and dispatchable electricity energy. It aims to maintain electricity grid reliability whilst minimizing cost and emissions. As we utilize AI algorithms to analyze grid performance data, we can dynamically assess and adjust this ratio to maintain stability. By advocating with current thinking, I repeat, with current thinking, a ratio of 30% to 60% renewables, we can ensure that as we transition to greener sources, we also have the necessary backup systems to prevent grid instability. This concept is especially relevant in the current context where we need to manage the transition carefully to avoid risks associated with over-reliance on intermittent sources, which could, as a worst-case scenario, lead to a total grid collapse and total blackout. And yeah, I could probably quote very advisedly the Spanish blackout of recent in April, Nicolette.
Mhm. So AI was definitely one of the main topics at the AMEU convention. So could you discuss the significance of AI and the existing smart technologies in driving electricity utility reform, as was discussed at a panel discussion during the convention?
That's another excellent question, Nicolette. And yes, we did have a specific panel addressing AI and smart technologies. Um, AI and smart technologies, in my opinion, and supported by many other experts in the sector, are revolutionizing how electricity utilities operate by inter alia radically improving data management, data integrity, and operational efficiencies. During these sessions, we explored how AI can predict equipment failures before they occur, optimize energy distribution, and enhance customer interactions through personalized experiences. By employing natural language, processing, and machine learning, utilities can transform customer service models, resulting in significant improvements, hopefully, in satisfaction and engagement, whilst ensuring that we proactively address issues that arise within the grid.
Mhm. Look, a lot can be achieved with the use of AI, but what challenges did the panelists identify regarding the implementation of AI-driven solutions within the energy landscape?
There were a few challenges. I mean, AI is still gaining ground and traction, so there were some challenges highlighted. Um, the panelists, especially the panelists, highlighted several challenges, particularly the need for robust policy frameworks that can keep pace with technology advancements. Now, as we adopt AI-driven solutions, concerns about data integrity, I repeat, concerns about data integrity as input into the algorithms, customer privacy, and the cybersecurity of smart grids come to the forefront. Moreover, ensuring that our workforce, and this is critically important, Nicolette, is adequately trained to handle these advanced technologies is absolutely critical. Embracing continuous learning and collaborative initiatives among stakeholders can help us overcome these technical or tech-related barriers efficiently.
Mhm. I want to now also talk about an age-old topic, and that's metering. So, in your view, what role does advanced metering infrastructure play in enhancing energy efficiency?
I'm glad you used the terminology advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, not smart meters, because I'm a firm believer that it's AMI and not only smart meters uh, that play a significant role in energy efficiency. Yes, Nicolette, AMI is the backbone and will remain the backbone of modern energy management systems, facilitating real-time data capture that drives energy efficiency. I would also argue uh, grid optimization, grid performance initiatives. By leveraging AI, this is critically important, for data analysis, we can transform raw meter data into actionable insights, allowing for targeted energy efficiency measures tailored to specific user behaviors. That I see is the core value proposition of AI going forward. This promotes a culture where customers actively participate in managing their own consumption, ultimately enhancing their engagement with energy savings and fostering a more sustainable approach. So I would argue that AMI in the rollout is not only going to impact positively on the technical aspects, but I think the customer engagement, the customer experience is going to be facilitated through AMI.
Mhm. And let's also talk a little bit about end users that are not yet on the grid, or those that want to be connected to electricity in the form and fashion that we understand it. So the convention emphasized the importance of equitable energy access. What steps then can be taken to ensure that all communities benefit from energy modernization?
That's another excellent question. Nicolette is very close to our Ministry of DE. In fact, the minister, I would argue, is very close to the topic of energy access and energy poverty. So, to ensure uh, equitable access, I would argue that AI can play a significant role in identifying underserved communities through data-driven insights. So we collect data, and by interrogating that through AI, we can get to underserviced areas rather quicker than later. Implementing participatory mechanisms that incorporate feedback from these communities into energy planning is essential. Additionally, and this is important, Nicolette, deploying AI-enabled platforms can facilitate the delivery of targeted services. I mean, here I'll also bring in FBE, free basic energy or electricity, such as subsidies or incentives for renewable technologies. This data-centric approach empowers marginalized communities and ensures that the benefits of energy modernization are more broadly distributed. And my final point here, and this is important, that they get broadly distributed and that no one, I repeat, that no one is left behind. Importantly, and this is a topical subject now, as we know, the price of electricity
Mm.
has to be brought down significantly to effectively and efficiently manage the energy poverty situation. I would argue we are there with energy poverty, but what we need to do is to prevent the situation from being exacerbated. And I think AI and associated technologies is going to play a role in that direction, Nicolette.
Mhm. And there are a lot of projects on the go that we could talk about, but let's focus on one particular project. So can you elaborate on the lessons learned from the solar public lighting pilot in Marikana in Cape Town and the implications for future community interventions?
I'm glad you brought in the Marikana informal settlement, which is in Cape Town, and this presentation was an excellent presentation, and there was a lot of attention from the audience. There were a lot of questions that were asked on this project. Okay, so the Marikana informal settlement solar public lighting project exemplified the importance of integrating community feedback into infrastructure projects. I mean, we can't get away. Projects that are successful is where the communities play a role. Lessons learned indicate that deploying AI tools for community engagement can significantly enhance participation and ownership of such initiatives. In other words, they take ownership of the project and they don't compromise the project. These technologies provide platforms for real-time feedback and engagement, which are essential for developing solutions that directly address community needs and foster trust. Incorporating these insights can lead to more successful project outcomes and greater community empowerment in future interventions. Actually, I must maybe take the opportunity of complimenting the city of Cape Town for this initiative and maybe encourage other metros and Munich to follow suit. I know they're also doing some work, but I think this effort where they're bringing technology into the rollout of the, in this case, solar, is actually commendable, Nicolette.
Mm. I know that at the AMEU convention, there are a lot of case studies that are discussed, and it's not just about public lighting or metering rollouts, but also around the transmission and distribution grid. So my question is, how can traditional electricity energy sources coexist with emerging renewable technologies, solar and wind, to ensure grid resilience and reliability?
I'm glad you asked this question. It's another excellent question because it's a very topical and I would also argue sensitive topic, not only in South Africa, but I would argue globally, because it's a tussle between how much of renewables, and I go back to the sweet spot ratio versus dispatchable you can put onto the grid. So you have the traditional electricity energy sources like coal, gas, hydro, nuclear, and then you have the renewables. So the coexistence of traditional electricity energy and renewable energy sources is crucial, as I indicated earlier, for maintaining grid stability. By utilizing AI and machine learning algorithms, we can predict energy production from renewables and adjust the output from traditional sources accordingly. I mean, we can do that dynamically. These technologies allow for smart load balancing, ensuring that we can meet demand without sacrificing reliability. Moreover, leveraging hybrid systems that integrate both energy types enables us to create a flexible and resilient energy network that transitions smoothly towards a more sustainable future. And here, Nicolette, I can see auxiliary services like battery-powered devices being rolled out to balance that ratio and to maintain grid stability. Otherwise, we could potentially, I'm not saying it was the direct cause, a Spanish blackout situation as a worst case scenario. Nicolette.
Mhm. There's a lot to unpack there, but let's also talk about what recommendations the panelists put on the table when it comes to how the emergence from the improving the integration of renewable energy into the national grid.
Yes, Nicolette, the entire convention, we had about 21 papers, were all underpinned by some excellent recommendations, and all of them obviously focused on the integration of renewable energy into a stable national grid. I'm emphasizing stability. So the recommendations uh, essentially emphasize a multifaceted approach where AI-driven networks enhance infrastructure agility in accommodating renewables. In other words, they've got to be agile and resilient, given the significant ingress of renewables onto our grid, which is not meant for renewables, because we need a smart grid. Ours is not a smart grid just yet. Investing in energy storage solutions, as I indicated earlier, powered or empowered by AI to manage intermittent renewable sources effectively is the key, I would argue. Enhancing grid infrastructure, including smart technologies and robust communication systems, they've got to go hand in hand, the technologies and the communications, bilateral communications, will empower electricity utilities, that is ESCOM and the municipalities, to manage energy flows intelligently. The operative word is intelligently. Additionally, developing reliable policy frameworks that support these technologies is essential for facilitating a seamless transition to renewable energy. Actually, on the panel that I moderated or chaired, we had the special advisor to the minister, Dr. Ramakopa, on the panel, and he brought some excellent insights from a policy perspective, on AI and associated technologies, not only the science and engineering, of course, underpinned by the science and engineering.
Mm-hmm. So, Vally, in closing, let's take a step into the future. What do you envision as the next significant steps for South Africa in its energy transition?
Well, that was debated a lot at the convention in the context of the themes and the sub-themes. So looking ahead, sort of maybe also taking a crystal ball approach, because the environment is not excellent. I mean, it's volatile. From a South Africa perspective, the economy is not doing well. The utilities are still battling. So looking ahead, key steps include acceleration of investment, continuing investment in renewable energy technologies, whilst improving, and this is quite important, existing electricity grid infrastructure to support reliability. As we know, and I know I coined the term, our current transmission and distribution grid is constipated, so we need to deconstipate it. So that said, I foresee a strong emphasis on integrating AI capabilities across electricity utilities, enhancing decision-making processes and promoting data transparency, ensuring that all demographic groups benefit and are not left behind, I repeat, not left behind from the transmission through targeted education, awareness, and community engagement will be vital. Ultimately, continuous collaboration amongst government, industry, and communities will enable us to realize a robust, inclusive, and sustainable energy future. And let me throw in a passing shot here. We must be very, very careful, and it came out a number of times in the convention, that AI, artificial intelligence, cannot and must not be viewed as the panacea for solving life's problems, and especially the energy sector problems. There is an excellent time and place for AI, but we must be very, very circumspect as to how we employ AI, especially because AI, I don't believe will surpass humans, because they don't have a human consciousness, but they rely on data, the training of data. But that data has to be as far as possible, integral, uh, reliable data. So if the data is significantly unreliable, the outcomes, even with the best algorithms, AI algorithms, will come up with outcomes which, if you're not careful, could significantly compromise decision making, especially policy decision making. I'll leave it at there, Nicolette.
Thank you very much for ending on that note of the fact that AI will always require human intervention. So that brings us to the end of today's conversation on the AMEU 2025 convention, and I look forward to the association announcing its 2026 theme. So thank you to my guest, Professor Vally Padayachee, for your time online today. It's always a pleasure getting your expert opinion and insights. And thank you to our listeners and viewers. If you found today's episode valuable, please share it with your colleagues and join us again next time as we explore more of the innovations shaping the utility sector. Until then, I'm Nicolette Pombo-van, and this was ESI Africa Insights.
Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to an ESI Africa podcast. For the latest news, reports, and interviews on power, energy, and related industries, visit the ESI Africa website on esi-africa.com or follow us on social media. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.